What in the seventh level of hell is going on in Washington State? Let's talk about it right now. All right, guys, the state is Washington. Washington State, the Pacific Northwest of the United States of America. Guess what they're doing? They're doing something that you as a parent or a grandparent would probably never do with your own child or grandchild. They are wanting to educate, or I should say indoctrinate, with more of this gender ideology. Kindergartners, Washington State, sex ed for kindergartners. Kids can identify their own gender, name at least 3 gender identities. Some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are both, some people are neither. Play this clip.
Kindergartners. The objective is kids get to identify their own gender, and then the program lists at least 3 genders. And then the key message of this program is some people are boys, some people are girls, some people are both, and some people are neither. Again, we're talking about kindergartners.
Kindergartners, folks. Kindergartners. I want to pull up this graph right here. I want you to take a look at this. You don't believe me, so I'm going to just double down with some of the proof, some of the facts. Take a look at what they're pushing. This is a book called Neither is Taught to Kindergartners in Oregon. 2 different states, but the same epidemic here. Kindergartners, it's a gender fluid picture book. Neither is the name of the book. And look at this. This walks the child through what it means to deal with these gender issues. It talks about the health scope, and it includes all of this stuff in there. Now, if you don't believe me, let's get it from the horse's mouth. State Superintendent Chris Reichdahl, this is Washington State. He's doubling down, flattening the argument that there are only 2 genders as biologically inaccurate, citing intersex variation, hormone complexity. Play the clip. Look what he's insisting on.
In this state, it includes trans youth. This is a biological question. It is quite simply inaccurate to say biologically that there are only boys and there are only girls. There's a continuum. There is a science to this. There are children who are born intersex. There are children whose chromosomes and their hormones aren't consistent with their sex at birth. That's not a debate we're going to have today. I just want to remind you of our civil rights obligation. Our state laws make clear that students get to identify and participate in activities based on the gender in which they identify.
Hey guys, we're going to get right back to the video, but before we do, I want to remind you that when inflation jumps and you hear that the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever sit back and think maybe now would be a good time to buy some gold? Whether it's a hedge against inflation or peace of mind during global instability, or just sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group has every American covered, where you can be backed by physical gold. They created something special just for our listeners. Until September 30th, if you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. To claim eligibility and start the process, request an info kit now by texting CHAD, I spell it Chad, to the number 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you with an existing IRA or 401k by rolling it over into IRA backed by gold. Folks, you're still eligible for the rebate and free metals up to $10,000. Birch Gold is the only precious metals company that I trust, as do tens of thousands of their customers. A+ rating with a Better Business Bureau. So text Chad to 989898. Let our friends over at Birch Gold help you right now. We're talking about 4 and 5-year-olds. We're talking, he says, we're not going to have that debate today. No, we are going to have that debate today. Because I want to talk to you about the madness of this being a part of the, quote, kindergarten health scope, and putting it all as a part of how you change. The madness of telling a 5-year-old child they can be whatever they want to be. This isn't compassion. This isn't empathy. This is confusion that's dressed up as progress. Now, I'm going to tell you this as quick as I can, as straightforward as I can, and I want you to listen closely, because I'm unapologetic. It's one thing to acknowledge that adults might wrestle with complex identity questions. It's another to drag innocent children that are barely out of diapers, really don't know how to use toilet paper, into ideological experiments that defy biology so you can check off a box in your political gratification and pursuits. This defies reasons. It's going to rob kids of stability that they desperately need. Kids need to understand identity, and when you play with that, holy crap. Washington, marching ahead of curriculum reform, October 1st, 2025, schools must incorporate LGBTQ plus histories and perspectives into learning materials, formal statewide mandate. Teen Vogue, that means classrooms full of ABCs now also carry the weight of centuries of cultural identity politics, and there's no opt-out for this kind of inclusive instruction. Even families can't opt out of the pronoun discussion or the LGBTQ representation when it's framed as identity, respect, or anti-bullying. I don't have to tell you this. You already know this. You've heard it said over and over again on my show every day. Biology is not a political opinion. Male and female aren't social constructs. They're scientific categories written into every cell of our bodies, XY chromosomes. They don't care about your slogans or your hashtags or your trends. If you're going to tell a child who can't even tie their shoes properly that they might not really be a boy or a girl that they were born to be, you're setting them up for years of anxiety, insecurity, medicalization. They don't know where they belong, and it's your fault because we're not letting kids grow. We're teaching them to doubt their very existence before they can ever understand their multiplication tables. Philosophically, this is a disaster. I say this to you, Washington and Oregon, because it undermines truth itself. If reality is reduced to whatever you feel today, then reality ceases to exist. When you tell a kid, a child, specifically a child, that truth is subjective, that their body is a lie, their feelings are king, you're pulling out the foundation stone of logic, reason, and morality. You can't build character when the very idea of reality is up for debate. Children need solid ground. They don't need to be told the floor under their feet is shifting sand. Let me tell you something. A child's mind is like wet cement. It's soft, it's impressionable, and whatever you write on it hardens over time. So instead of writing confidence, stability, and identity rooted in reality, you got activists like these politicians in the Pacific Northwest that are carving confusion and fragility and dependence on external validation. That is not empathy, it's not compassion, and it's damn sure not liberation. It's psychological child abuse. We don't let kids decide their bedtime or their diet without guidance, but somehow we're supposed to let them choose their identity like they're picking an ice cream flavor of the week. What Washington State and even Oregon is doing is not education, it's indoctrination. It's pushing ideology into the classrooms under the banner of kindness, kindergartners no less. Let me remind you, when in reality, it's stripping kids of the most basic understanding of who they are. And let me tell you, when you disconnect people from truth, when you separate them from biological reality, when you don't make them free, you make them slaves to every passing feeling, every cultural trend, every manipulative adult with an agenda. Biological reality, the science you say to trust, takes a backseat replaced by classroom-centric driver's ed on identity. Ask any kindergartner what gender means. The answer is going to be whatever the poster on the wall says, or what they grew up hearing trending on TikTok, not what DNA says. The regulatory skeleton of this system was mandated by law back in 2019. They rolled it out with coordinated model policies, training mandates, even a designated civil rights compliance officer in each district. Dear God, this ain't about hate, folks. Folks, this is about protecting innocence. A kindergartner should be learning to read, to play, to explore the world with wonder, not to question whether they're a boy or a girl, or some new label dreamed up by academia, or an ideologist, or a philosophical activist. Teaching kids this ideology is fundamentally biologically and philosophically destructive. And one day, we'll all look back at this with the same shame we feel when we read about other failed social experiments, only this time it will be children who paid the price. And let me tell you the legal and cultural ramifications. Federal agents are sniffing around on this thing. In May 2025, the U.S. Department of Education launched an investigation into Washington's gender-inclusive schools, their policies and their concerns, their Title IX privacy laws, which is FERPA, parental rights, specifically around transgender girls and girls' sports in locker rooms. Folks, now you're bringing it down to kindergartners. Kindergartners. Dear God, stay your hand of judgment on this country because we are flirting with it bad. We are mocking God at every turn. Folks, I want you to subscribe to the chat. Pray the show on Rumble and YouTube. Go to where podcasts are offered. Leave us a rating and review. I want you to pick up my new book, something they desperately need to read in Washington and Oregon, Born for Meaning. Yes, the DNA of your meaning, of your purpose in life. was imprinted in you by God, your creator, when you were born, when you were created, when you were formed, when you were fashioned. I'll go so far as to say when you were conceived. Born for Meaning. Get it on Amazon or bornformeaning.com. Subscribe to the show. We love you. God bless you. We will see you next time. Pray. Bye.